Good morning and welcome to Live Without Limits, the Success Shift. Think like your future self. I'm your host, David Shinsky, and today we're exploring one of the most important and often hardest parts of potential growth, breaking the mental patterns that keep you stuck in the same cycles, the same habits, the same emotions, and the same results, even when you desperately want something different. Today, we're talking about breaking the mental patterns that keep you stuck. If you've ever wondered, why do I keep ending up in the same situation? Or why do I keep reacting the same way even when I know better? Or why does it feel like my mind is working against me? This episode is for you because today we're going to break down why mental patterns form, how they take control of your life, and how to finally step out of the loops that limit your potential. So let's begin. The pattern that followed me. I want to begin with a deeply personal story. For a long time in my life, I found myself repeating the same mental patterns over and over again, even long after I thought I had outgrown it. It was the pattern of self doubt. Not that loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet whispers that ask, are you sure you can do this? Maybe you're not ready. What if it doesn't work out? What if people don't accept you? This pattern was so subtle, so woven into my thinking that I didn't even recognize it as a problem. I thought it was simply a part of who I am. I was working on a new project. Okay, so let me back up and say this. When that happens, think back to your childhood because often they're the things that someone said to you many, many, many times. When you go back to transactional analysis, back to the 60s, when they talked about the adult, the parent, and the child. Often, when you were a child, someone was telling you things like, you can't do that. You don't know how to take care of yourself. You can't, can't, can't. And when you buy into you can't, then you begin to believe that you can't do something. Therefore, what happens? You, as an adult, put the brakes on whenever you set a goal because your fears kick in. And when those fears kick in, you're afraid to even try to do something. This pattern is so subtle, so woven into your thinking that you didn't even recognize it as a pattern. I thought it was simply a part of who I was until one day something unexpected happened. I was working on a new project, something exciting, something meaningful, but I found myself hesitating, procrastinating, shrinking back. And when I paused long enough to really sit with that feeling, I realized something. This wasn't fear of the project. This was an old mental pattern trying to protect me from being visible, successful, and powerful. It was a survival pattern, a childhood pattern, a familiar pattern, but it was not my future. And in that moment, I had a realization that changed my life. You cannot create a new life with old mental patterns. Your future can't grow in the soil of your past thinking. That was the day I learned how powerful and dangerous our mental patterns really are. And when you think about The Secret and the laws of attraction, when it's talking about how negative thoughts draw negative things to you and positive thoughts bring to you what you want, then what you are really needing to do is change your thought processes. Change that message that you're giving yourself in your mind. When you do that, then you are beginning to take more control of your life. So let's make this simple. What is a mental pattern? A mental pattern is a thought you repeat, a belief you reinforce, a emotional response your brain memorized, a behavior your nervous system expects, a familiar loop that feels safe. And when it's painful, patterns form because the brain likes predictability. Predictability feels safe. Safe feels familiar. Familiar feels comfort zone. Even when it's uncomfortable, we often have to learn to stretch beyond our comfort zone in order to learn. So, this is why you may find yourself choosing the same type of relationships, reacting with the same triggers, feeling the same emotions, repeating the same mistakes, avoiding the same opportunities, staying in the same cycles, not because you're incapable, but because your brain is protecting you from the unknown. Your patterns are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of conditioning. And that conditioning comes from childhood, from the things that the people around us tell us. And conditioning is what you need to change, because you can change those thought patterns. Just listen to the laws of attraction and how they talk about changing those mental patterns and using affirmations to change those patterns. And when you change those patterns, that's when you begin to stretch beyond your comfort zone, to stretch, to begin to believe in yourself, to lessen that self doubt, to begin to take control of your own life. Now, when you think about it, a child is just learning where they fit into the family, how they fit into the world around them. And often that's as a child, that's formed by the things the people around us tell us. For one thing, I can remember being told you can't live on your own. You can't think for yourself. You can't make decisions. Now, cerebral palsy does affect how the brain processes information, but it doesn't mean that I'm incapable of taking care of myself. And I learned that the people around me that were telling me those things, that was their shortcomings and their fears. And also, they wanted to control my life. They wanted to live their life through me. And if I allowed that, they would continue to do it. So, understanding how others around you look to control you, and are you willing to allow them to control your thoughts, or are you going to take more control of your life? Because remember, that adult's not always going to be there. And how many times as people get older and they slow down and they don't continue to do things to keep them active, then they become reclusive and they force you to become reclusive. And we have to live according to who we are. We all have different behavior patterns that are our strengths and our weaknesses. And if they're living their weakness through your strength, then you have to realize that, because the day will come when they won't be there and you can't allow them to live your life for themselves. Why mental patterns keep you stuck. Mental patterns operate like internal programs. They run automatically. They don't decide to feel insecure, overwhelmed, angry, or doubtful. The pattern triggers before you even think. They reinforce your identity. If the pattern says you're not good enough, you'll behave in ways that match that belief. They choose for you. Your subconscious makes 95% of your decisions. Patterns often decide because your conscious mind even catches up. Now, when you think about Freud, he talked about the id, the ego, and we've got the subconscious, that things form in your subconscious mind. That's your dream state. You, depending on where you wake up, if you wake up right after you are in the midst of a dream, you will remember that dream. But if you do not wake up until hours later, you will not remember that. And if you are processing your thoughts and fall asleep, then that subconscious takes over. And that's when you start to process those thoughts and think of ways that you can take control of your life and do some of the things that you choose to do, because your subconscious is telling you how to do it or what it is that you want. Once you take what those thoughts are in the subconscious and consciously take control of them, then you are beginning to take control of your life. They reinforce your identity. If the pattern says you're not good enough, you'll behave in ways that match that belief. They choose for you. Your pattern and your subconscious makes 95% of your decisions. Patterns often decide before your conscious mind even catches up. The block your growth. You can't expand into your future when your patterns anchor you to your past. The trick you into thinking, this is just who I am, but it's not who you are. It's who you learn to be. Patterns are learned, not innate. And that means patterns can be unlearned. Remember, it takes 21 days to form a pattern. And you need to consciously be aware of what you're doing, because once you let go of that pattern and change, you've got to consciously be doing something to make that change. And once you've done it for 21 days, then it becomes automatic. And that's your relearning your patterns, repeating what you know. There was a period in my life when I kept falling into the same emotional loop. I would take a bold step forward and then immediately pull back. Looking back, I see it clearly. I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of stepping too far outside my old identity. the version of me who played small, stayed quiet, or stayed safe. Sometimes your mental patterns don't fear failure, they fear expansion. This is why you've got to understand the relationships you're in, because if you're with someone that's holding you back, then you're going to remain held back. It can be a parent, it can be a partner, it can be another family member. And usually it's because they like to control you. They like to control your life because it makes them feel bigger to control you. You have to understand why they do that. And if you're willing to change, but they're not willing to change their relationship with you, then you have to be willing to understand, are you going to stay in that relationship, or are you going to release that relationship? Often I'll see on Quora where a parent will wonder why their child has no relationship with them or closes off that relationship, but they never talk about the things that they did in that relationship to create the environment that made that person not want to have anything more to do with them. So, understanding why, are you going to stay in your comfort zone, or are you willing to break the bonds of that comfort zone and move on to be the person you were meant to be? And understand why you have that fear. Is it your fear or is it their fear? Because, often if a parent has a bad experience in a situation, they're going to have a real fear of trying to do something. And often a young child will develop the same fears, not because it's something they experienced themselves, but because it's something they witnessed in their parent. So because expansion means you will be seen, you will be heard, you will be successful, you will change your life, you will outgrow your old environment, and your mind is wired to avoid anything unfamiliar. So when my pattern tried to pull me back, I learned to ask, is this fear or is this familiarity? Most of the time, it was familiarity. Once you see your patterns clearly, you are no longer inside them. You are observing them. And once you are observing them, you can break them. Remember, it's you, it's me, it's who we are and how we see ourselves that makes us decide what we're going to do. Are we going to live the life we should have based on our strengths? Or are we going to allow someone else to control our thoughts? This is why some parents often lose their children, because they don't know how to let go. Because when you've got a very, very young child, they're very dependent on them. But as they get older, you have to allow that child to take on a little bit more responsibility, because you're helping them to grow, to learn how to have relationships, how to have a healthy relationship. We see too many divorces in the past because these were people that grew up in a different time. Before women went to work, they were very dependent on the husbands, and they allowed the husbands to continue to abuse them and not treat them as equals. Today, as women are getting more educated, as they're starting their own business, they are no longer allowing their husbands to, or being as dependent on that individual as they were 2 or 3 generations ago. So and a parent that who doesn't understand that times are changing. If you look back to the very conservative 50s and then how things changed in the 60s and the self-help industry started to grow, and then now how we're trying to, and religion is trying to take more control and make you go back to the old types of thinking and ways, it's going to cause a breakdown in more and more relationships. The pattern breaking framework, a practical, psychological, actionable system. Here are the 4 steps to breaking mental patterns that keep you stuck. Awareness. Name the pattern. You cannot break what you won't acknowledge. Ask yourself, what emotion do I repeat? What thought keeps me showing up? What situation do I recreate? What fear follows me? Where do I feel stuck and why? And here are some examples. I shut down when I feel criticized. I avoid opportunities because I fear being judged. I sabotage relationships when I feel insecure. Naming your pattern takes away its power. Interrupt the pattern. When you notice yourself slapping or slipping into the loop, stop, pause, break the automatic response, interrupt with something physical, stand up, change rooms, breathe deeply, touch something cold, speak aloud. This is an old pattern. The brain cannot hold 2 states at once. A physical interruption creates a psychological break. Now, I want to give you a little bit of example. I can remember as a child, my mother was dragging me onto the escalator. I got one foot on and I couldn't, and I lost my balance. Well, it put a fear into me in going up escalators. But as I got older, as I was aware of why I had that, I was able to overcome it simply because I began to realize and where it came from. And now when I go up escalators, I don't even think about it. Replace the pattern with a new thought plus new behavior. The old pattern, I'm not good enough. The new thought, I'm capable and growing. The new action, send the email, make the call, move forward. The old pattern, I avoid failure. Now, remember this, failure is an opportunity to learn. Therefore, the new thought should be every step teaches me. The new action, take the next step. The old pattern, I shut down emotionally. The new thought, I can express myself safely. The new action, speak one sentence of truth. Patterns are not broken, but but by doing something different than the old pattern expects. Reinforce the new pattern daily. New patterns are built with repetitious consistency, conscious choice, emotional reward, evidence that the new behavior works. Every time you choose the new pattern, you weaken the old one. Every time you behave from your future self, you break the grip that of your past self. Reflection. Take a, take a slow breath with me. Place your hand on your chest. Ask yourself, what pattern is holding me back from my next chapter? Let your mind show you the answer. Don't judge it. Don't resist it. First, just acknowledge it. Now, ask yourself, what new pattern is ready to be born? That's the one waiting for you. Now, you are not stuck because you lack strength. You are stuck because your patterns were built for survival, not success. But today you are choosing differently. Today you are choosing differently. Or rather, today you are aware. Today you are conscious. Today you are free to choose a new way of thinking and living. Breaking a mental pattern is not an overnight process. It's a daily act of courage. Every small shift is a victory. Every conscious choice is a transaction. Every new thought is a liberation. You are breaking cycles. You are rewriting conditioning. You are creating a mind that works with you, not against you. And that is how you begin to redesign your life. Remember, you are resigning your life. If you're an author, a coach, an entrepreneur, or a storyteller, and you're ready to share your message with a wider audience, I'd love to help you bring your book to life. I offer professional audiobook creation services, and you don't have to record anything yourself. I'll create a free custom audio sample for you that you can hear your book narrated in a powerful and professional style. To get you your free sample, just message me. Send me my audiobook sample. Include your book title, the first 2 to 3 paragraphs, and I'll send you your sample within 24 hours. So let your story be heard. And I would like to thank you for joining me today on Live Without Limits. Remember, you are not defined by your old mental patterns. You are defined by your ability to choose new ones. Your mind is powerful, and today you took the first step towards mastering it. I'm David Ashinsky, and I'll see you in the next episode. So remember to live without limits. And let's talk again about the mental patterns because I think that this is something we need to be aware of. How we turn around and control our thoughts. And we all know and have learned about the secret and heard about the secret and talked about the laws of attraction and affirmations and how to change those thought patterns over time. And it all goes back to how you should take control of your life, how you can live the life you were meant to live, how you can live and begin to control your life, your thoughts, and how you can learn to get beyond the limiting beliefs, how to stop putting the brakes on every time you start to reach a goal. And here's the thing, remember that what you are really trying to do is get rid of all those negative thoughts that you were trained to have for years and years, and change your thoughts to begin to think more positively, to begin to believe in yourself and who you were meant to be.